Welcome inside the RX Muscle Studios in Westbury, New York for another episode of Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by, as always, by Species Nutrition. Go to speciesnutrition.com, try our new caramel macchiato flavor limited edition. It is flying off the shelves and you can only get it at speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. 30-minute question and answer with Dave Palumbo. Anything and everything is on the table. Diet, training, supplementation, questions about IFBB pros, competitions. We're in the thick of the competition season. It is all on the table. The best overall question of the show gets a Species Nutrition gym bag as well as Nitralized pre-workout. The best I hate the show, or I would rather be doing X than watching the show, gets Nitralized by Species Nutrition. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, this Saturday, the big event, Bros versus Pros in Shirley, New York, featuring Jay Cutler.
Well, you know, to get a four-time Mr. Olympia to come to Bros vs. Pros, and obviously it was with the help of Steve Smith, the owner of the gym, who got him down here to do the grand opening, is always going to add a bit of celebrity nature to the event, and obviously it's going to make it much more, I guess, popular. I'm sure we're going to have a tremendous amount of people watching the event. We always get probably a couple hundred. I bet you there's at least 1,000 people at the gym this weekend. And you know, Shirley, Long Island is not close to us. It's way out east on Long Island. It's, you know, towards the Hamptons, you know. And so we're going to have to take a nice trip out there. But I've seen this gym, and it's 40,000 square feet. And, you know, I can't tell you how beautiful it is, and I'm really excited to go down there and have this event there as their grand opening. Obviously, Akeem Williams and Jeff Beckham being our two IFBB pros that will be lifting against the regular gym bros. $2,000 for cash prizes up for grabs. Tracy Hess, who is our female pro, had to back out. She had a little problem. We have Erica Guerra, who's a women's physique pro. She is coming down, and she will be defending the IFBB pro. So this is going to be a super exciting event this weekend. It's free to come watch. It's free to enter. You never know. You might go home with some cash prizes, and if you can't make it, you can check it out live on rxmuscle.com. That's Saturday at 12 noon that will be starting.
So 12 noon, the broadcast live. Jay Cutler is going to no doubt be on the broadcast. And again, tonight, Heavy Muscle TV, we're going to have Dave, I believe, one of the co-owners from Unique Fitness Extreme, who's going to be live in studio telling us more about the event. Again, 30-minute question and answer. If you have a question, you can join us on the Muscle Central Forum on rxmuscle.com. On our Facebook page, you can tweet your questions using hashtag AskDave, or join us on our Instagram page, official_RxMuscle. Or, of course, if you're watching live on the live stream page, on the live chat box below. We start off in the Muscle Central Forum on rxmuscle.com and check in with Rock240. Dave, I hate this show to the point where I would rather get stampeded to death for some cheap amino spike protein in Walmart on Black Friday. Very nice. What is sugarcane fiber, and how does it pair up with Fiberlize?
Well, you know, everyone always, you know, wants to come out with the newest fiber product, and unfortunately, you know, while almost every plant product does have fiber in it, the degrees of what this fiber does is totally different in the body. When I talk about a fiber supplement, I talk about a supplement that's going to be at a lower cholesterol levels. It's going to increase the bulking action of the food and move it through your digestive tract quicker, work the colon, okay? You know, alkalinize the colon, you know, lower blood sugar. This type of a fiber is what we would call a soluble fiber, and we want to use a very potent soluble fiber. Psyllium, and I've talked about this before, is 8 times, you know, I guess you could say more potent on a gram for gram basis than oat bran, which is usually the gold standard in soluble fiber. So that means you'd have to eat, for every 1 gram of psyllium, you'd have to have 8 grams of oat bran to be the equivalent. Quest protein bars have a ton of fiber in them. They're great bars, but they're not the kind of fiber that is going to elicit these responses or these health benefits that I'm talking about. Same thing with sugarcane. Sugarcane fiber may delay absorption of food and keep blood sugar levels a little lower, okay, over the course of a certain time period after you ingest it, but it's not going to have all these health benefits. It's not like psyllium. So you can't replace psyllium with sugarcane fiber. Just like you can't, you know, replace psyllium basically with eating a salad, okay? It's not going to do the same thing. You need 8 to 9 grams of twice a day of a psyllium-based fiber to really elicit these health benefits and feel the difference. And I think that's why when people use Fiberlize, my Species Nutrition fiber product, they get such great results and they don't want to stop using it, because I'm sure most people out there, you guys know who you are, have tried other ones and then come back to Fiberlize because they realize it's the formulation that makes it very potent. Not only is there psyllium in there, but there's also insoluble fiber in there as well. So it's that dual fiber supplement punch that it packs that makes the impact on.
Let's go now to BB50 Plus on the Muscle Central forum on rxmuscle.com. Again, if you're not already a member, it is free to register. That is where we talk about everything going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness, and of course, all the banter about the shows that we do on rxmuscle.com. Dave, this show is worse than all the interminable Phil Heath and Kai Green YouTube videos. Let's get to it. My last lab results showed slightly elevated creatine and BUN or BUN numbers. At what level should I freak out? Isn't it good to have higher than normal values of these measures? And do these values relate to being in positive nitrogen balance, or do I have a gross conceptual error?
Gross conceptual error. BUN, or blood urea nitrogen, and creatinine are the waste products of protein. This is what your kidney will take out of the blood and eventually excrete. When creatinine and BUN elevate in the bloodstream, it means that the kidney is not able to get this stuff out of the bloodstream quick enough, and that you're toxifying your body essentially. Now, if you're a little elevated, it's not going to be dangerous to your body, but it could be an indicator that there is some damage to the kidneys, or that the kidneys are being overworked. If levels are mildly elevated, usually 1.3, 1.4 is the high level on the creatinine level. If you're over that, you want to really consider doing something to bring it down. I recommend my 3-week detoxification program, and if you email me at huge285@aol.com, I will send it to you. I've helped a lot of bodybuilders and just regular people who've had high creatinine and BUN numbers bring those numbers down significantly. Now, creatinine and BUN will not come down in 3 weeks, but it will. When you detox your entire body, it puts less stress on the kidneys. And in this detox program, there'll be 12 hours of fasting, so your body will be able to start regenerating those cells, because the kidney does regenerate, not as well as the liver, but it does regenerate. Now, if you come to me with a creatinine level of 4, okay, that's serious. That's like almost dialysis numbers. It's going to be pretty hard to come back from that. So the idea is to keep an eye on that creatinine level. If it's a little high, you bring it down, do a detox program. Also, don't exercise right before giving blood, because a lot of times that will raise creatinine a little bit. I remember once I did a 20-mile bike ride, and I went and got my creatinine tested. It was like 1.8, and I almost lost my mind because I thought, I'm in kidney failure. And then I went back a week later, and it was normal. So that is an issue. High creatinine and BUN are not telling you that you're a better bodybuilder, just a stupider bodybuilder.
Let's go to Big Mike Cox on the Muscle Central forum. Dave, did you know Craig Titus, and were you shocked at what he did, or did you see him heading down this dark path? So I guess for the viewers that may not be fully aware, Dave, you want to give some context behind Craig Titus, and I guess address the question whether or not you knew him, and if you were shocked to see him go down this path.
Well, I knew Craig. When I was first coming on the national scene in '94, so I was kind of looked up to him a little bit in that sense. He was the golden boy. He was on all these covers of magazines. In '95, I actually got to meet him for the first time in '95. I was staying at Ed Carnes' house after I had won the Junior Nationals, and all of a sudden this guy comes in to go sun himself on the roof, because Ed Carnes had this rooftop, sunning deck, right on the beach, and it was Craig. And Craig and I kind of became kind of friendly at that point. And I did see him over the years, go and get into the partying scene too much. He obviously got married to Kelly Ryan. The two of them brought in this Melissa James. She was their assistant, and something happened. We'll never know the true story, probably, unless Craig reveals it at some point. She somehow died. Craig and Kelly tried to cover up the death. They tried to burn her body in the desert. It was on the news. It was on everything. And then they tried to run for it, and they got caught. Obviously, Craig and Kelly, in jail doing time. But Craig and Kelly were like really heavily into drugs, toward the end, right there where they got, in trouble with the whole murder thing. And I definitely saw something coming. I never, in my wildest dreams, imagined murder, but I certainly saw something not good going to happen because of all this. And I don't know what happened, because Craig and Kelly were very successful. They were great business people. They made money. They were, they were looked up to. They liked to have a good time, but they were always people that, like, you knew they were troublemakers, but you never expected anything like that. But when you do drugs and your mindset and your thought processes are twisted and warped, you'll do crazy things, as we found out, unfortunately for Melissa James. And, Craig is going to probably be in jail for the rest of his life. Kelly was supposed to, I think, was sentenced to 6 or 4 to 10 years or 12 years, something like that. And she's gone for parole, and she has never been granted parole yet. So she's been in for quite a while, and I don't suspect that they're going to be getting out anytime soon.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. We stick with the Muscle Central Forum and go to Paint Train. Dave, I'd rather than writing a line about how much this show sucks, because you already know, I would rather steal Chris Aceto's identity, rack up charges at the gay bar, give his kids' identities to illegal immigrants to work on Donald Trump's properties until he finds out and has Officer Farah arrest me for identity theft and put in a cell with Craig Titus.
Craig Titus.
You're deep. That was deep. Dave, how much longer do you think Dr. Blau will be able to do surgeries, and who else would you recommend when he is no longer able?
Well, Dr. Blau is the #1 gynecomastia surgeon in the world. Obviously, a lot of people know my story. I went to him back in 1991. I was one of the first bodybuilders he ever worked on, and then I set the domino effect, and I sent everyone to him, and he's done thousands and thousands of people over the years. And he's the best. He's the gold standard. He just wrote a book, Masculinity Redefined, about gynecomastia, and for him, he knocks out these surgeries in like a half hour, because it's so easy for him. He loves to do it. He's 60 years old, or he's in his 60s now, but I don't see him stopping. He doesn't work every day. He works 3 days a week now, and he just loves to do surgery. He loves the gynecomastia. He kind of stopped doing a couple of the other surgeries just because he doesn't need to. He does so many gynecomastia surgeries. As far as who else, I would say, Dr. Silverman's good up in Boston area. I know a lot of people he's done, and I've sent people to him. But Dr. Blau is the #1 guy, and I can see him being around for another 10 years. So I don't think we have to worry about that. Hopefully, we can get a new up and coming medical doctor, maybe to do a little internship with him and learn all his special techniques.
Let's go now to the livestream.com live chat box. For those of you watching us directly on the live stream feed, with the chat box below, we go to Peter Gazda. Dave, what do you think about fructose intake? What is the daily intake? How often and when is it best to eat? I read fructose only to restore the glycogen store of liver. Is that right?
I'm not an advocate of fructose. Dr. Scott Conley, who's kind of my mentor, the inventor of metrics, is told me so much horrible stuff about fructose. Now, most of the fructose we talk about when we say bad health benefit or health effects would be your high fructose corn syrup. That's the artificially made fructose that's made from corn, basically. We grow tons of corn in this country, and we don't know what to do with it. We make gasoline out of it, we make sugar out of it, and that's the kind of sugar you do not want to take in. Now, when we talk about fructose in fruit, not quite the same thing. It's a much more dilute version of fructose. Doesn't have the negative health ramifications. But basically, fructose in the body takes the fat-burning switch and turns it off. So you're not going to burn fat in the presence of fructose. It just doesn't happen. So if you're trying to get in shape and look good, you really don't want to take any fructose in, to be honest with you. There's really no safe amount of it. Like I said, if you're going to have a couple fruits a day and you're not really dieting, that's fine. But if I read high fructose corn syrup on the label of anything, I do not eat it, okay? Just because it's that bad. Dr. Conley calls it the F word in nutrition. It's the curse word in nutrition, really, is what it is. And he also makes a great analogy. It's like poisoning the well of the drinking water that people are drinking. In other words, it's in the food supply. Most people don't even know it's there. They're eating the stuff, and they don't even know they're getting unhealthy because of it. And meanwhile, the government is extolling, oh yeah, it's fine for you because the corn growers, they got to support them. I would not eat any high fructose corn syrup.
Let's go to Rick Sessman. Dave, I would rather have Chris Aceto's baby sit on me and sing the ABCs to sleep while having George Farah reading to me his deficient math lessons than watch this show. Would it be advisable to be doing still the heavy-duty training, Mentor style, training pre-contest, or focus on volume-isolated training?
I think a big mistake a lot of people make is that they change their training pre-contest. A lot of guys don't do it, but a lot of guys do it. There's no reason to change how you train pre-contest, because why would you stop doing the exercises that built the muscle to begin with when you're getting ready for a show? Because all you're looking to do, if you reduce the weights and increase the volume, you're going to lose muscle. That's invariable. Keep lifting heavy. Keep doing the same things. If you want to add a couple extra exercises just for shaping purposes and for a little more squeezing, that's fine. But never abandon the basics. I would squat 600 pounds up to a week before a show. People thought I was crazy, but you know what? I had some of the biggest legs in bodybuilding. Ronnie Coleman was the same way. Keem Williams the same way. So you don't want to lighten the weights up. If heavy-duty, high-intensity training worked for you and built your muscle, don't change it pre-contest. Once again, if you look great, don't do silly things. Don't do kooky things, like I said. When you start changing things up, that's when you screw yourself up. I see so many guys go from looking great off-season, then pre-contest, all of a sudden they look terrible. And I'm like, what happened? And I changed my diet, I changed my training, I changed this, I'm doing running outside and sprinting up bleacher steps. Why would you do that? You didn't do that in the off season. So I think the key is do what you've done and gotten success from in the past, continue to do it, don't change.
Once again, you're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Once again, the best overall question of the show gets Species Nitrolyze and a Species Gym Bag. And for the best, I hate this show, or best, I would rather be watching or doing this than watching the show, you get Species Nitrolyze pre-workout. We now go to our Instagram questions, always entertaining. If you want to join in, our handle is official_RxMuscles. Go to Anthony Medina 1980. Dave, your show sucks so bad, I would rather read George Farah tips of the day over why cutback is... All right, I guess he kind of lost it there. Question, on the keto diet, is it only protein, fats, no carbs, and only one cheat meal a week with carbohydrates?
My ketogenic diet is a high protein, moderate fat, very low carb diet. Now, I don't use that right out of the bat with everyone. Some people I do have some carbs, but if you're talking about my belief that in putting a person into ketosis to help maximize fat burning, yes, it's a high amount of protein, usually 1.5 grams per pound, divided by five or six meals, depending on if you're a woman or a man, and then about 1/2 to 3/4 of a gram of fat per pound that you weigh. So a typical 200 and 220 pound man might take in 50 grams of protein a meal and 25-30 grams of fat per meal with no extra carbs. The only carbs coming from what would be found, like in, say, nuts or in some vegetables, salads, stuff like that, green stuff, which is very minimal. So usually carbs are under 40 grams for the day. If you do that, what happens after 72 hours, 3 days, is that your brain doesn't have energy, fuel. So it says, look, I got to have fuel to survive. So it switches its metabolism to stop its burning glucose as a fuel source and starts burning fats, also known as ketones. The ketones that are produced in the liver, that's what the brain uses for fuel. And the brain never runs out of ketones because you have an unlimited amount of fat essentially in your body, especially in stored body fat. So that's what fuels the brain. When the brain is fueled by fats, okay, you think clearly, you don't have mood swings, you don't have mood up and downs, your blood sugar doesn't really change very much, and it becomes a much more, I guess you could say, reliable and easily accomplishable diet. A lot of people, fail on their diets because they feel terrible and they wind up eating more. When your brain is not dependent on glucose, your moods pretty much are stable, and I think that's why it works so well. Now, once a week, you get a cheat meal. The advantage of the cheat meal is that it spikes, you're going to eat some carbs, so they spike your insulin levels, and then your thyroid hormone, your inactive thyroid, will convert to active thyroid, T4 to T3 conversion, will optimize itself. In other words, the less you eat carbs and the less insulin you have over a prolonged period of time, that T4 to T3 conversion can slow down, and we don't want that. So this cheat meal will not only give you something to look forward to, and kind of like a get-out-of-jail-free card, but it will also metabolically stimulate your body's metabolism to stay at a very high level.
Reminder, tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Heavy Muscle TV returns. We're going to be joined live in studio by Keem Williams, IFBB Pro. Keem Williams coming off 2 back-to-back top 3 finishes. We're also going to be joined via Skype by Gabe Moen, and we're also going to preview the upcoming Bros versus Pros. Jay Cutler is going to be on the broadcast noon Saturday. It's going to be in Shirley, New York at the Unique Fitness Extreme Gym, brand new gym, beautiful brand new gym, so you're not going to want to miss that. We now go to Rocky II Jr. Dave, what are your thoughts on using Metformin for sustaining insulin sensitivity while bulking?
You know, Metformin is a drug they give to type 2 diabetics. The problem with type 2 diabetics is that they don't produce enough insulin, a lot of them. Some of them are insulin resistant in the sense that they don't have enough receptors, but most of them don't produce enough insulin. Could be from eating excessive amounts of carbohydrates, could be from being obese. Whatever the case may be, their bodies cannot produce enough insulin. Now, Metformin, while it does have some insulin sensitizing abilities, it also forces your it forces your pancreas to produce additional insulin, which will ultimately lower blood sugar. The problem is that when you become a type 2 diabetic, it's because your pancreas is being overworked. By putting Metformin in there, you're forcing the pancreas to work even harder now, leading much more likely to lead to the pancreas burning itself out even more, and thus raising blood sugar. So I believe, that, and I know there's a lot of people out there who believe this also, that increasing, taking Metformin to solve a high blood sugar issue is going to only make the blood sugar issue worse long term. I would rather see someone take a small amount of a basal insulin, which is a long-acting insulin, once or twice a day, every 12 hours is usually the best, optimal, to keep their blood sugars on the lower side. And I think that's what that does is it takes the burden off the pancreas to produce more insulin, because now you're supplementing with extra insulin from the outside, what we call exogenous insulin, and it's taking the burden off the pancreas to produce endogenous insulin. And sometimes by giving the pancreas rest, it will regenerate itself. So that to me is a much better solution than Metformin.
We stick with the Instagram questions and go to Dirk Wone. Dave, I hate this show so much I would rather have the Russian hood surgeon Eugene Mission remove a throat abscess on me with a steak knife than have to watch the terrible show. You know what I like about that, Dave? It's the fact that we went away from the George Parrott jokes and it was still hilarious. So good job, Dirk Wone. My question is, where does Aceto get those awesome headphones he always wears? Every store I checked said they had been out of stock since 1996. Hashtag why cut back.
I thought that they were Beats by Farah that he wears. No? That could be wrong.
All right, we go to Mike Nez. Hey, Dave, you've probably already answered this, but I was wondering if you could set the record straight. What happened with you supposedly selling fake gear to people in the early 2000s? Don't mean any offense. Thanks.
Well, like here, I answer any question, so it doesn't really matter to me. A lot of people, you probably know that back in 2005, I wound up doing, 5 months in federal prison for, sale of growth hormone. Now, the original charge was sale of intent to sell fake growth hormone. What had happened was, as a bodybuilder, as you all know, we use growth hormone, and I used growth hormone back in the day, and I purchased one time from some guy in California that someone had hooked me up with. And when I received the stuff, I realized that it really didn't look good. And as a matter of fact, I had purchased it for myself. I never did anything with it. I never sold it or anything like that. As a matter of fact, it wound up in the garbage, believe it or not. And I never talked to the guy again. 2 years later, I get a call, and from the guy, and I could tell he's like, the feds were just here and they got my black book. They might have your number. I'm surprised he actually even called me, the guy. And I said, okay, and never heard anything for another, 6 months or 7 months. And then next thing you know, knock, knock, knock on the door, and before I know it, I had to call my lawyer, and I wasn't arrested at that point, but I guess they had tried to, indict me in San Diego, which is where this guy was arrested, evidently. He tried to rat me out, so to speak, if that's what you want to call it. And I guess he did, in a sense. And I wound up, having to go to court there and take a plea bargain, and, because you don't fight the feds, you lose. And I wound up going, once again, I wasn't willing to, turn over names. I'm not a rat myself. I would never, pass the buck onto someone else and get them in trouble. And I took my medicine. I did the crime, and I took my medicine. I did my time in jail, and that's it. Moved on. Learned a lot of lessons from that, and changed my life, for the better. So, shit happens, and that's what you got to do. I always believe you got to take responsibility for what you do. And when you do that, then you have no regrets when it's all over. It was 5 months out of my life, and I learned a lot of lessons from that.
We stay with the Instagram page and go to The Volander. Hey Dave, your show is so bad I'd rather dress up like a grapefruit in Kai Greens in George Farrow's new blockbuster movie, with George Farrow uttering his tips of the week throughout the movie. On to the question. For a beginning bodybuilder, 5'11", 243 pounds at around 10% body fat, would it be a wiser choice in your opinion to chase a dream of a dying sport in bodybuilding, or lose 20 pounds of muscle and go to the dark side, physique, with a brighter future? It's a good question.
I say, do what you love. If you love bodybuilding, be a bodybuilder. You know, when I was in college and I was trying to pick a major, because I wanted to go to medical school, and everyone's like, oh, you got to pick a weird major, because if you pick an obscure major, you'll stick out on your resume. So I went to my guidance counselor and I said, you know, I don't know what to major in. Everyone's telling me I should do something. Maybe it should be a physics major. She's like, do you like physics? I'm like, well, you know, it's all right. I'm not. She's like, well, what do you like? I'm like, well, I love biology. You know, I'm into animals and this and that. And I love all the. She's like, well, then be a biology major. I see, but everyone's a biology major who applies to medical school. She's like, don't worry about that. Do what you love, because that will always result in the right outcome. And you know what? She was right. And you know what? That's what I did. And I loved being a biology major. And I learned a lot of stuff that I probably wouldn't have learned had I not taken all those courses. And that's really what I was interested in. So do what you like. If you love bodybuilding, you like to pose on stage, who cares if the sport is not as popular maybe as it was 10 years ago? Or who cares if men's physique might be the next big thing? If that's not what lights you up inside, then don't do it. Because invariably you'll hate it and you'll regret not trying for bodybuilding.
Dave, we go to Jumpa999. Hello, Dave. I'd rather watch an old episode of Little House on the Prairie than seeing your show. Nice throwback. I am 35 years now and thought to try some Testo Booster. Can unfortunately not try your Testo Booster because it does not exist here in Sweden. Can you recommend another Testo Booster that's good? I eat base products such as vitamins and minerals, omega-3s, good protein, creatine, and of course maintain a good diet.
Well, you know, what makes a good testosterone booster is something that's going to, number one, block estrogen production, because estrogen invariably is what shuts down natural endogenous testosterone production. You want to block DHT production, dihydrotestosterone production, because if you have testosterone and some converts to DHT and some converts to estrogen, invariably you have less testosterone available. So a good test booster blocks estrogen production, blocks DHT production, and then naturally augments natural testosterone production. Now, Testostolyze, or as we call it now, Testolyze, does and accomplishes all that. I know it's very popular, and especially I was in Houston this past weekend at the Branch Warren show, and I want to just say thanks to Brian Dobson and Branch Warren for inviting me. You know, I realized that a lot of the retailers out there were telling me they sell a ton of Testolyze out there, and you know, once again, once people use it, they realize how good it works. And a lot of people go for blood work and they see the testosterone levels higher, and so they're all excited about it. But you can't just get from minerals and vitamins the same benefits you get from something like Testostolyze. You know, what we use in there, you know, whether it be salt palmetto or it be, you know, aspartic acid, or maybe all the different, you know, diindolin or indole 3-carbinol, these are all specific compounds that are designed to, number one, get rid of estrogen, lower DHT production, boost testosterone. You're not going to do that with just vitamins and minerals. And I know a lot of these Scandinavian countries, even some of the European countries, will limit the type of ingredients that you are allowed to have in there, and that's unfortunate, but you know, that's just the way it goes sometimes. And I can't really say take fish oil and you're going to raise testosterone levels. It's not going to happen.
We stick with the Instagram page. Go to Giler Vega 6. I would rather send progress pictures on my underwear to Chris the Gaytician Aceto than wasting a second of my life watching this nonsense. Now, I don't know if this is an updated story or if he's asking something that may or may not have happened about a month ago. Is it true that Victor Martinez was dropped from MD?
Well, I think it was Johnny Styles who just gave me the update like minutes ago. I'm sure somehow I'll get blamed for it, even though I had nothing to do with it. But Blackman why cut back? All he does is cut back, and I cut back too. I admit it, but I'm not the guy out there putting why cut back. I knew Victor was going to get dropped. You knew it was bound to happen. They're all going to get dropped eventually, and the last holdouts will be this. Will be the last superstars that he's got, the Dennis Wolf and the Branch Warren. I guarantee you Branch will probably get dropped next year too. And it's ironic that Blackman signed Dana Lynn Bailey now, because you know he's probably panicking because he's not getting ROI, return on investment. Maybe he figures with Dana he will. So Victor gets dumped and they pick up Dana Lynn Bailey.
So
there you go.
Confirming that here on the show right now that
I heard it. I haven't talked to Victor, so I shouldn't say that. But that's Johnny. What was your source of the Victor Martinez being dropped?
Christian Duke posted it.
Oh, Christian Duke posted it. It must be true then.
From Muscle Sport Magazine.
From Muscle Sport Magazine. Okay, well then, Joe Piataro is pretty accurate, so I can't imagine that he would get it wrong. And he's friends with Victor, so it probably is true.
So we'll take a couple of more questions. This one from, where we go here, Gear Move 6 or something. Dave, I'd rather watch an old dusty Jeff Farrah's movie with Chris Aceto and George the Policeman Farrah doing a cameo appearance, doing a scene together, than watching this load of crap. How do most top pros get gear and GH? And if it is doctors, how can they justify prescribing the massive dosages?
I don't think most bodybuilders get it from doctors. I think most bodybuilders get it from illicit means, and I think that, they probably order it from China, or they order it overseas, or they have a friend in the gym. It's an unfortunate part of the sport because, I was involved in that at one point too. When you're competing and you need to use gear, you got to get it from someplace, which automatically takes a very pure-hearted bodybuilder who just loves the sport and wants to compete and turns them into a common criminal. And it's sad, really, that hormones in this country are illegal, but yet you can get caught with heroin and they put you in rehab. Oh, he just needs to be helped. He's got a problem. But bodybuilders, they're like, oh, these despicable people. Let's throw them in jail. And all the bodybuilders want to do is compete. They're not doing anything bad. So to me, it's sad. But unfortunately, most bodybuilders don't get it from doctors because the doctors, like you said, can't prescribe the dosages that they require.
Take one more of this question from B_wacky_what, or rather the what was part of the question. What are the perfect macros for bulking without gaining too much body fat?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because everyone has different requirements. Now, the protein and fat is pretty consistent. It's about 1.5 grams per pound of protein. So a 200-pound man would need about 300 grams of protein. I always like to even go higher than that, but that's about the minimum. And then obviously for a man, about 3/4 gram of fat per pound. So, you're looking at, for a 200-pound man, you probably want to get about 130, 140 grams of fat per day. And then the carbs really become the swing nutrient. Once again, I could probably consume 400 or 500 a day and not get fat, whereas, Joe Blow might need to take in 150 to 200 grams a day. So the carbs you play with. I always err a little on the higher side at first, and then if the person is gaining too much body fat or is too bloated, I cut it back. So that we play with. But protein and fat is consistent because that's what's required to build and repair muscle. You want to take in enough carbs so that your body uses the carbs exclusively as your fuel source so that it doesn't use the protein and fat for fuel, because we want the protein and fat to be used for building and repairing muscle. And it's a very simple formula.
So that's going to do it for the questions portion of Ask Dave. Time now to announce the winners. And I'm going to go with the best question, Dave. That one coming from the Volander. And the question he had was about whether to pursue physique or to pursue bodybuilding. This is a very relevant question. It's one that is being tossed around right now for a lot of newcomers to the sport. So the Volander, email me at sid@speciesnutrition.com. You're going to get a Species gym bag as well as Nitrolize. And the best I hate, Dave, I have to go with Dirk Wone because he went away from the George Farrah jokes, yet he still managed to make it funny. And that was about how he would rather have the Russian hood surgeon Eugene Mission remove a throat abscess on me with a steak knife than have to watch this terrible show. So Dirk Wone, email me, sid@speciesnutrition.com, and you're going to get your Nitrolize pre-workout. Once again, tonight, Heavy Muscle TV, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be joined live in studio by Akeem Williams. We're going to be joined by Gabe Moen over Skype. Chris, the technician, Aceto, is going to join Dave early on for some analysis. We are in the thick of the contest season. And, of course, Saturday at noon, we are going to have Bros versus Pros featuring Jay Cutler. You're not going to want to miss that. Saturday noon right here on rxmuscle.com. Special thanks to Johnny Styles. We'll see you tonight.